Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how are you doing tonight?
Bruce, I don't think I'm deluding myself when I suggest that when it comes to kind of patient and optimistic Oiler fans, I'm in one of the higher percentiles. I might not be like in the 99th percentile or even the 90th percentile, but I think I'm in the top 20 percentile for patience and optimism. But Bruce, I'm not this patient. I'm not this patient.
How optimistic are you, David?
I'm optimistic they'll make a move.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic something's going to change here.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 6-0 to the Panthers, Bruce. Grade A shots in the end were, after the Oilers had 6-3 in the first period, they were 15-8 grade A shots in the end for the Florida Panthers. The Oilers lost 6-0. They're in the middle of a horrendous losing streak since first week of December, where they've been the worst team in the NHL since that time. They've gone from the best team in the NHL to the worst team in the NHL. This will beat the optimism and patience out of pretty much any Oilers fan. I didn't see anyone online with anything good to say. Like honestly, like silver linings or it was just people are just fed up, Bruce. And there comes a point where whether it's right or wrong, the GM is forced to move.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're at that spot. So we'll get into that in a bit. Let's talk about tonight's game. 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast. What's your good thing?
Yeah. Well, I had the great pleasure of attending this game in person, David. In fact, I paid to watch this game. I bought a ticket. I bought a mini pack at the beginning of the year, and I got some good games on that mini pack. But tonight's was rather disappointing. I will pick a good thing out of it. The first period, I thought it was pulsating hockey. I really enjoyed the flow of play. I thought, Florida's doing pretty good, and they're just sort of hanging on to stem the tide because the Oilers were throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at them. And I was down in the Florida end, and Bobrovsky was weaving his spell, and he kept a few out of there. It looked like a young Vladislav Tretiak in net. So he's not that young, but he is younger than Vladislav Tretiak. And he was just whatever the Oilers were doing, that was creating good chances. And what they have in the first period, 16 or more shots, I think it was, wasn't it? 17-7. And as you say, 6-3 in grade A shots, and probably 5 more that grazed the goalpost or somehow deflected just wide of the net, or loose in the crease, but nobody could get a stick on it, or it hit a guy just as it was going into the net, or any number of things. Like the Oilers' puck luck is it's been bad for a while, and it's still bad. I'm not going to write this loss off to puck luck, but they sure could have used some in the first period when the game was 0-0, and this is a team that absolutely desperately has to get the first goal, and they have to do it in a game soon before the season is over, because they got out of the first period 0-0. Usually they don't. Like, they almost always give up the first goal in the first period. But they got out of it 0-0 and not 2-0 ahead or something, and then they would have had a fighting chance. But they kind of shot their bolt in that period. And then once Florida got ahead, it just spiraled out of control.
Puljujärvi with 3 tips in the first
Mm-hmm.
period. 2 of them absolutely just like should have scored, or
Mm-hmm.
I bet you the Oilers expected goals for that first period if you include everything, like the missed shots, like close. It's like 3 goals. Like you'd expect 3 goals out of that many chances. They had, like, we had 6 grade A's. There was a couple of really solid grade B chances. I think they were in the first, and then there was like, as you say, these close calls. McDavid had a breakaway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he almost went through the whole team. There was a great 3-way passing play in the last minute of the period from Draisaitl to McDavid to Puljujärvi that Bobrovsky made a great stop close.
There was a power play chance where McDavid put the low high pass to Nurse, who just hammered a one timer, and he didn't score. There was just lots of really great chances, and When is the last time an opposition goalie has let in a weak goal early in the game, like when the score
Or
was
ever,
close, or
at
ever
any
against the
point.
Oilers? Like
At any
they
point.
just
When's the last time
never.
they got a weak goal? Like, it just seems like forever ago. Anyway, you
Yeah,
asked about expected goals in the first period. In all situations, 1.62 to 0.6. So according to these guys, the Oilers should have had a one-goal lead after the first. And
yeah.
overall, the expected goals, the Oilers should have had a one-goal lead at the end of the night.
I don't buy that. I
No,
don't
I
buy
don't
that.
either, because the third period they gave up on it.
Yeah, that's
So
not accurate. Um, so Bruce, my good thing is that the game is over. That's my good
I
thing. That game's over. What's your bad thing?
move on to the next. Yeah. Well, there's lots of bad things to choose from tonight, but I'm going to, since we're only doing one bad thing and not two, I'm going to uh, single out or triple out the men wearing suits on this team that have not been getting the job done and have been letting their fans down. And I'm talking about right from Bob Nicholson through uh, GM Ken Holland to the coach Dave Tippett and his coaching staff. Uh, this was a team that was badly outplayed tonight. They were badly out rostered tonight. I was looking at this Florida team. Bill Zito, the guy that was interviewed by the Oilers, and he was in contention until the second Ken Holland threw his hat in the ring, and then he was gone. And I'm looking at all these guys that they got on their roster, like Anthony Duclair that they picked up, and Carter Verhaeghe that they got on the cheap in the summer, and Ryan Lomberg, that's sort of a depth player, but who actually goes out there and makes things happen, and he's a threat to score. And I could name you more.
Brandon
Yeah.
Montour, Sam Bennett,
hmm
Radko Gudas.
And a lot of these are guys that were picked up by the GM in trades or just on the open market. And I see those guys having a big impact on this game, both in the flow of play and on the score sheet. In some cases, I mean, Carter Verhaeghe, what a wicked shot he scored on. And where are those guys on the Oilers? Where are they? Where are the real savvy additions that the Oilers have made, either through trade or through free agent signing or picking off the scrap heap? I mean, in fact, had a variation of this conversation not recently about the paucity of value contracts on the Oilers. Well, then I'll talk a little bit about the coach and how uh, his team's defensive system is not very sharp. I mean, there was a lot of free looks and free, and uh, his uh, strength that has been in the first 2+ years of his time behind the Oilers bench special teams. Well, that's totally gone up in smoke. They got destroyed again tonight. 3 penalty kill shorthanded or goals against the penalty kill unit. 3 power play goals by the Panthers, and the Oilers were unable to generate any in 3 chances. And it was just, I mean, as the writing got on the wall, I mean, the systems just went from bad to worse. And I said to my seatmate, with about 10 minutes left in the third period, it was 3-0. And I said, these next 10 minutes are important for Dave Tippett. They're not going to win this game. But I'm interested to see the Oilers had 38 shots at that point. I said they should push it to 50 shots and play their asses off and try and get one by Bobrovsky. And, like, they can't quit on the game. Well, they quit on the game. And the last 10 minutes were just absolute atrocious to watch. They
I mean,
kept
Bruce,
taking stupid penalties, and then they kept not being able to kill them off, and they couldn't get a save, and they were like not covering the right man or backing off the guy who was about to put the puck in the net, and it was just technically, fundamentally poor hockey, and I got to put a chunk of that on the coach. He's the
after
guy coaching these systems. Where are they? How are they shutting teams down? They're not.
yeah, after the first Florida goal, they only had 2 grade A chances, And that
Yeah.
Florida goal came 5 minutes into the second period.
Mm-hmm.
Grade A shots on net, just two.
Oh, yeah.
So when did they quit? Um,
Well,
I think they were shut down before they quit. They
yeah, I
quit.
agree.
They quit after the
Third.
Barkov's goal from the high slot that Koskinen just blew. There's something not right with Mikko Koskinen. Like he's not out far enough. Like he's got to make that save. Like just how do you let that one in? So my bad thing, I'll go with the first three goals, starting with that one. It's just like Koskinen has got to make that save.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to make other saves too. But on the first goal, Nurse was playing some good hockey, made a great defensive stop in that game in the second period where he took away a breakaway chance by Huberdeau. But I'll tell you what, Bruce, he's on the PK, which has been a massive problem for the Oilers recently. He causes that first goal against by sprawling on the ice. He tries to take away the pass, but I don't know why he had to sprawl like that. Like honestly, like the shooter, the guy with the puck, I don't remember who it was at the side of the net. He's in no position to score. Nurse just has to go over and essentially cover the guy who's in the slot.
Sam
But he
Reinhart.
decides to sprawl, and there was lots of time because the Oilers are out of sync on the PK. Lots of time for the shooter, you know, to well, I guess he one timed it in the net. Like it was a nice shot, and I don't blame Koskinen necessarily on that one. Although it's nice to have a big save on a tough chance. Other teams have been getting it, the Oilers have not. But really, Nurse caused that one by sprawling at the wrong moment, and they put it right over him. I guess the sprawl play happens, and now and then you're going to get beat on it. But man, that was a bad one.
I'll counter that the sprawl play is taught, and that the Oilers defensemen have throughout the season had times where they laid down across the slot when they're trying to prevent the cross ice pass. The theory being that 9 times out of 10 the guy's not going to be able to make that pass,
Which
and
is
the
probably
tenth
true.
and the 10th time when he does make it, he's going to have to lob it over the guy, and it takes enough time to get across that they expect the goalie should be able to get across and track it. And Kosman just didn't quite get there, and the guy, I mean, that was Barkov absolutely buried it right in off the short side post. Like he didn't mess around. And still he kind of had it surrounded. Like the puck, he
I
just
think it went off his
and
glove.
didn't have his
Yeah,
glove quite in the right place. And he sure didn't have much time to adjust. And I mean, you have to give the other guys credit. Florida is a hell of a team, and they showed it tonight time and
yeah.
again. Their execution was good, and their offensive instincts are excellent. They really bring it. And their power play was connecting all night long. But
You could say the sprawl. Maybe I could be convinced that the sprawl is a good play. Like that the averages are there, and you should keep doing it. Like I'm not saying it's not there, but it wasn't
mhm.
there on that play.
No, it didn't
Like
work that
and
time for
maybe
sure.
it just seemed maybe there's a moment to do it and a moment not to do it. And
Hmm.
I just had a sense that was the moment not to do it because I guess there was two such wide open players down
Yeah.
low. Um, but maybe this is just the 1 in 20 times that it connects, and the other 20 times you stop the play. And I'm I'm just being a little bit harsh on Nurse, and I'm open to being wrong on this. I might be wrong, but sure didn't look that good.
Early in the
Bruce,
year and
this
last year, they were laying down a lot on these plays, and the other teams weren't trying the pass. And now it was driving me nuts. I'm saying, why are you laying on your side? Get up and stand on your feet. But maybe that's me being old school, and that's the new game. But tonight they got burned, and Darnell, like, and that was the end. They were coming towards me, Florida, and Darnell made 4 outstanding defensive plays in the second period alone. But you know what? He also was on the ice for 4 Florida goals tonight. So
Yeah,
I,
and he was at fault on three of them, Bruce, according to my
oh,
calculations. You've yet to go over my chances because you're at the game, but
hmm
another
and
power
he
play
made it.
he and CC allow a cross seam,
Yep.
and on the final goal he allows a pass
Hmm.
across. No, he allows a pass out to the guy in the slot. It was Owen Tippett, as I recall.
Right.
Bruce, my final part of the bad thing was the second goal. It's an even
Right.
strength goal, and on this one, the Florida has the puck down low. They're moving the puck around, but there's no real problem. There's enough Oilers down there, and Fogel has been covering. He's F1. He's down playing the center position. Draisaitl's taking his spot on the wing. And at one point they get a little close together, like the play's going behind the net, and Draisaitl's kind of coming back. And but when the play looks like there's going to be a pass out from behind the net, Draisaitl charges out to the point, and he should be doing that. I think it's established at that point that Fogel's F1, but Fogel gets a little confused by Draisaitl heading out there, and he decides he's going to head out there, and he leaves the guy wide open in the slot. The defensive center has got to cover whoever is the center at that moment, who is F1. That is your man. And Warren Foegele left him wide open, and the puck went through Ceci. A tough play for Ceci to make, but it's really got to be Fogel's got to be on that guy. He's got to make that read and have that coverage. He didn't, and they scored the killer, the absolute kill. Like, there's a chance you'll come back from a 1-0 lead, even against a team as good as Florida. That's the killer, and you're not coming back.
Carter Verhaeghe, and what a great shot he made. I mean, they executed. And that was the thing. The Oilers made mistakes, and Florida made them pay for those mistakes. And so, I mean, hats off to Florida. I mean, I enjoyed watching Florida tonight. They got a hell of a team. But boy, did they make mincemeat out of Edmonton. And the longer the game went, the worse it got.
They got Carter Verhaeghe. We got Brendan Perlini.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty
much. They got Anthony Duclair. Who did we get?
Warren Foegele.
Warren Foegele. Yeah, they got Sam. No, they got Sam Bennett. We got Warren Foegele, and they got I don't know who the equivalent of. They got Sam Reinhart in a trade.
They got he was a free agent, wasn't he?
They spent their cap space. No, they spent they traded. I'm pretty sure they traded for him, didn't they? And let me just look at this.
Fine. I mean, it was a lot going on that day, but I do remember him getting moved along to Florida and thinking he could do real well there. And I thought the same as Sam Bennett when they gave up a couple of second-round picks for him. And he's doing more for Florida than Andreas Athanasiou is doing for Edmonton, who also cost 2 second-round picks, just saying.
They traded for him.
Okay.
And they traded in exchange for Florida's first-round pick in the 2022 draft and goaltender Devin Levi.
All right, great.
So a first-round pick, essentially. I don't know about Levi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bruce, your number.
Yeah, my number is 7. I got to go with 7 losses in a row for Edmonton Oilers now.
That's 700.
Mikko Koskinen also has a personal 7-game losing streak, during which time the Oilers have scored 7 goals, the same 7 goals he was complaining about last time that he lost 4-1 in New York. And the team sure isn't providing much in the way of offense for Mikko, get much done there. So it's all come apart at the seams, and they've
they scored 4 goals a game, Bruce, in their first. I think they were averaging about 4 goals, 3.8 goals a game in their first 21 games.
Yeah.
How can you go from 4 goals a game to less than it's like 2.3 or whatever it is now?
Yeah, to 35 in the last 15 games, 35 goals. So they've dropped by a goal and a half a game, and they're allowing like 1.2 goals per game more. Like, they've scored 35 and allowed 64. Right, like they were plus 19 on the season in goals, and now they're minus 8. Like, that old expression, regressing to the mean, or I like to say regressing toward the mean. Anyway, the Oilers have regressed beyond the mean, and they've actually more than completely blown the early bulge that they had in both, basically any stat you care to look at. I listed a bunch of them in my post today, and I'm not going to write another post like that again anytime soon, because I'm getting sick of writing those kind of posts. The team has gone from winning games by hook or by crook, and sometimes by great hockey, to all of a sudden not having a clue how to win hockey games. Oh, I know what the 7 in a row was. That's the 7th game in a row that they've, on the 7-game losing streak, that they gave up the first goal. And it's the 7th game in a row that their special teams have been outscored. So every game in this losing streak, 7-game losing streak, they've fallen behind 1-0 at least. And their power play has been outscored by the other guy's power play in 7 out of 7 games. They haven't sawed off. They've been outscored in 7 out of 7 games. Dave Tippett's special teams have just come apart at the seams.
One of the things being held against Tippett right now is, the fact that he's had Cooper McCurdy, who's been one of the AHL's best players, and he's not given him a chance. Like, whereas we see these same veteran players, Kyle Turris, Devon Shore, getting now Colton Sevier, like getting endless chances. Cooper McCurdy, nothing. I think that's a fair critique of Tippett personally. That
How about Seth Griffith that had 5 primary assists last night?
Yeah.
He's the first playmaker on 5 goals in a 6-3 Bakersfield win. The Condors have now, I think they've got a 5-game winning streak and a 10-game point streak. So at least things are going well down there. But maybe it's time Marody or Griffith, and maybe they should be thinking about
Jay Woodcroft.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
That's been out there for a while, and Woodcroft's been just going up for the last however long, and Tippett's lost now 12 games in a row behind the bench, Dave Tippett, right? Because he missed 3 games to COVID, and that happened to include the 2 wins that they had. And his team came out hard tonight in the first period, but overall, you have to say that's a pretty dispiriting performance.
So let's just talk a little bit about what might happen next, because it's on the mind of every Oilers fan. Like, tomorrow is something going to happen?
Something better happen. I mean, Ken Hull needs to get off his ass. I mean, seriously.
Mr. Patience. Mr. Patience. He's very patient.
He's very patient, but I mean, Rome is burning.
He's very patient because he has to be, because he's right up against the cap. He spent all his money and his options are limited. But listen, they've got to trade for a goalie, Bruce. He can if he doesn't want to fire Tippett, he can fire Tippett.
The choices.
He's got 2 choices. He can trade for a number 1 goalie, or he can fire Tippett. They need to make a move. You can't, in the face of this, I've been really patient, and it took me a long time to get to this point. But you can't keep losing like this. You can't keep getting this kind of goaltending. And Mike Smith, listen, they've got to trade. They might have to do both tomorrow, or in short order. Listen, Mike Smith, you can't count on him. This thing with his hand, it's just endless. The injuries he's going through. Even if he got healthy and played a month of great games, you can't count on him to go into the playoffs and help you win at this point.
Playoffs?
Playoffs, Bruce. You can't. This is still a real 500 team. If you're a real 500 team, you have a chance to make the playoffs in the NHL. There's still a ton of hockey to be played.
Right.
So you can't go on a playoff run counting on Mike Smith. And you sure can't count on Mikko Koskinen. And you can't count on Stuart Skinner. You must trade for a goalie. You must trade for a goalie. Now, must you also fire the coach? If you trade for a goalie right away, maybe you don't have to fire the coach. If you're thinking that actually it's just the coach has been screwed up, if you take responsibility as a GM, it's not the coach's fault. I'm the guy who gave him these goalies, and I've sunk him. So I'm not gonna add insult to injury by firing him now and blaming him for everything. I think you could get away with not firing the coach if you bring in a goalie, see how that goes. But it might take a combination of both. And if you can't trade for a goalie right now, like if there's literally nothing that's that appetizing out there, then you're probably going to have to fire the coach to shake things up and hope you get a bounce until you can trade for a goalie. How can you get a bounce though with these goalies?
Yeah, well, they keep hoping that Mike Smith is going to come back and save the day, but we've seen how many. I mean, he came back. He played 2 games. He got hurt. He came back. He played 1 game while he was hurt. Then they had a week off. Then after the week off, he didn't feel right in practice, and then he went out again. And it's and they haven't played many games, but they haven't had much good goaltending in any of the games they've played lately. And this is two straight at home, 6 goals against.
Ooh, bad hands, bad groins. Like Mike Smith has a lot of problems right now with his, and too bad. Like, I
I think
thought
he
the Oilers
started a
between
2-year
Koskinen
deal.
and Smith, I thought they'd have a decent goaltending tandem this year. Between those two, Koskinen had a good year, Smith has had a good year. You think between one of them, you're going to get some good goalie play. Well, hasn't been the case.
Yeah, well, Koskinen now, of course, he was a Chiarelli signing with the blessing of Bob Nicholson and the Oilers upper brass, but just the day before Chiarelli got fired during a game against Detroit, as it turned out, that that they signed Chiarelli, or that they signed Koskinen, but I mean, Koskinen's name was coming up during the Duncan Keith negotiations. That the Oilers were going to take salary. They should dump some salary on Chicago, who did need a goalie, and instead, Chicago taking Koskinen, they gratefully took the cap space and took Marc-Andre Fleury, reigning Vezina Trophy winner, for free.
Yeah. Yeah, there is an argument to be made for firing Holland at this point, obviously. He had all that cap space this summer to improve the team.
Yep.
The team is definitely not improved at this point. You know, my prediction, Bruce, they're going to trade for the Oilers will trade for a hot goalie. He will then get COVID. Well,
maybe
I was
Alex
so looking.
Stalock is going to come in and save the day. We can always be optimistic about it.
Alex Stalock. I was so looking forward to seeing the line of Draisaitl, Puljujarvi, and Hyman. I thought that was actually kind of a stroke of, well, it's either a stroke of brilliance or a belated stroke of brilliance, because why haven't you tried that before? But you got these three guys who can really forecheck and puck protect. And I just thought, man, that line, that's really intriguing. That could really work. And, of course, Zach Hyman gets COVID. Of freaking course he gets COVID. It's just like the Oilers it's been the worst kind of COVID run in so many ways, because it's just like endless trickling of good players instead of like getting through it all at once, like the Flames, just this endless freaking trickle. And that's been really rough as well.
Yeah, like when was the last time the Oilers didn't have anybody on that list?
Early December.
CC came back. There might have been a game or two between him coming back from missing 4 before the next people went on. But since then, it's just been just endless ongoing
misery.
Yeah, things aren't.
At least after the All-Star break, they don't have to test you unless you're symptomatic. So,
well, at this point, almost everybody's had positive tests,
except for Leon.
They said something like 73% of all NHLers been on the list. I mean,
yeah. Well, with Omicron, it's like half the population. It's going to be by the end of it.
They made the rules that they made were for the last variant, and this one,
they made sense up until now, and now I don't think they do, and they're changing them a little belatedly to help the Oilers at least through this. I mean, no, of course, no one knew for sure how Omicron was going to play out with the general population. We're just learning now. And, so out of an abundance of caution, or just a reasonable amount of caution, they decided to stick with the old rules. And it's hard to change rules on the fly. You got to see how things go. So I'm not really criticizing them now. I'm glad they're changing the rules now. It makes sense unless there's some unexpected development with COVID. Expect the unexpected with COVID, of course, but the new rules now match the reality. So hopefully it'll work out better. We're both triple vax day, Bruce. So,
oh yeah,
I guess we could get it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm fully expecting to get it, but I'm also expecting that I'll be well equipped to deal with it because
I've totally been exposed to it. I'm coaching, and then like it's all over minor hockey. Like tons of kids are getting it, and I've definitely been exposed. But and maybe I even had it and didn't even know. But I doubt that. I haven't had any other than I had a bad cold there for a month, but it wasn't COVID. All right. Well, Bruce, we will meet again on Saturday night. Hopefully.
It's the Flames. Well, the Flames beat the Panthers 5-1, and then the Panthers beat the Oilers 6-0. So that either says that the Flames are 10 goals better than Edmonton, or it means this is going to be one of those weird round robins where everybody kicks the crap out of each other once each, and maybe we're going to beat the Flames like 8-1 or something.
God, I can't even imagine that something good happening. It's just been beaten out of me. I just can't imagine the Oilers. They just are what's that line from a Bruce Springsteen song? I was unrecognizable to myself. Like, what is this team? Who are these guys? Like, what is going on? Their back has been broken. Their heads are like just pulverized. Their confidence is gone. Their game's gone. They're this desperate. they come out there flying with this unbelievable zeal and fueled by desperation. And they get a goal against, and then they crumple. This is a team. So this is why you come back to the coach, right? But it's you come back to the coach and say, well, that's on the coach. But then if
only some of it's on the
bad
coach,
goaltending, but bad goaltending will do that to you. It just is. It's such a shock to your system, and that's on the manager.
Or this particular goalie in contract to some degree is on the Poho because he said so the day that Chiarelli was fired. He said that the Oilers had been fully involved right up to the top on that decision.
Yeah, Bob Nicholson. Fair enough.
Well, I mean that's I'm starting to wait. I'm waiting for some solutions, and I'm not seeing any from any of these.
What would you do tomorrow?
All of those guys are lucky that I'm not Daryl Case.
You get rid of all of them. You clean house.
That would be a very strong temptation. It may wait until the season's over, but I mean it's possible that it might happen, but not probably tomorrow. Which is why they're lucky I'm not Daryl Cates. I sat in the seat tonight, David. The game ended. My seatmate left early because she has a 5-goal rule. And I said, no, I always stay to the end. And the game ended. And I just kind of sat in my seat. And I'm sure I had the 1,000-yard stare looking right down to the far end of the building. And just, I don't know if it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I was just kind of sitting there stunned that they got so completely outclassed and shellacked by the end. And it was hard.
Of course, everyone's extra grumpy because they got to wear their masks all game and can't eat anything and drink anything. So it's like beer, grumpy crowd anyway. So, oh man, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well, I'm enjoying hockey this year, Bruce. I've never had more fun playing hockey in my life. Like honestly, I have never had more fun. 59 years old, came back from a 30-year absence from the game to play adult hockey again. I've never had more fun than this year. I'm really enjoying the team that I'm coaching. So for me, that's hockey. That's the hockey that I'm excited about. And I wish it was a trifecta, but it is not. But it could be again. So there I'm regaining my optimism. We'll see what happens.
Bakersfield's doing good, Dave.
I got to watch some of those games, but I'm just
proven players and coaches alike.
Yeah, Philip Broberry's got he's got what 16, 14 or 16 points I think now in 20 some games. So hey, maybe call him up. Can't get maybe see how that works out. Although no, trade for a goalie, man. Trade for a goalie, and if that doesn't work, bring in a new coach. And those are the moves. Can't you trade for some goalie? Isn't Louis Levasseur still out there?
Well, Jimmy Howard, former Detroit, long-term Detroit goalie, is an unrestricted free agent. I'm sure he would. But, I don't know if there's a number 1 out there, David. But even a number 2 at this point would look pretty good.
The equivalent of Dwayne Rolifson. Find that guy. Isn't he there? Isn't there some team that's out? They say they can't make it Fleury work because of the cap. Like that's what Pierre LeBrun was saying today. Well, make it work. Figure out a way. Make it work. Make this happen. He's the best bet. Or maybe, I guess they probably don't want to bet on Dreger from Seattle because he's having such a bad year. He's got a big contract. All right. Let's leave it there, Bruce.
All right.
Thanks for talking.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.